tell us your first and last name.
Carolina Prieto.
And please spell both of those names.
Carolina Prieto.
Thank you. And if you could pull the microphone closer to you and please speak into it.
Okay.
Good morning.
Good morning.
In September and October of 2021, where were you living?
In Spire, the Spire building.
What apartment?
Apartment, oh my god, I moved a year ago, I don't remember.
It was a 3507?
3507, yes.
And who were you living in that apartment with?
I was living with Daniel Lacerda.
Who was living in the apartment directly across from you in 3508?
It was Ali and his, I don't remember her name.
Had you ever met Ali?
Before, like maybe once or twice.
You wouldn't say you were close with him?
No.
Do you see him here in the courtroom?
Yes.
Can you point out where he's sitting and describe articles of clothing he is currently wearing?
He's wearing a blue shirt. He's
Identify the defendant.
Thank you. When had you met the defendant?
I met him. The first time I met him was we had a reunion in our apartment at night, and he came over for a few minutes.
Was that for Daniel's birthday?
No, I don't remember.
Okay. Did you have any conversations with the defendant inside your apartment?
No.
Did you ever meet his wife, Anna, who was living with him in the apartment?
I did see her once in the elevator.
Okay. If you look in front of you, it's people exhibit number 1. Do you recognize that woman?
Yes.
Who is that?
Yeah, that's his ex wife.
Okay. And is that Anna who you met in the elevator?
Correct, yes.
Had you met her on any other occasions besides in the elevator?
One other time, she knocked on our door, asking for help.
Do you recall when that was?
I don't recall the exact date.
What month or year?
Around August, I will say. No, yeah, around August.
Okay. You started to say, did you start to say September?
Or September, yes.
Difficult to remember the exact time
It
frame.
was a long time ago, I'm sorry.
So sometime in, you said August or September of 2021?
Correct.
Okay. And so what alerted you to a situation outside your apartment?
She knocked on our door asking for help. They were, I believe, on a fight. And she asked for a phone number to call her family members.
Okay. What time was this?
It was at night.
Was it late at night? Or do you remember if it was before or after midnight?
Before.
Were you sleeping?
No, we were watching TV. Like around 9, I will say.
Sorry?
Around 9 p.m., we'll say, 8 or 9.
Okay, just give it your best guess.
8.
And did you, when you were watching TV, was your door closed?
Yes.
Could you hear anything coming from apartment 3508?
Yes.
What did you hear?
We heard screams and loud noises of, I don't know, things dropping on the floor.
Who was screaming?
I believe both of them, Anna and Ali, and the baby.
Did they have a child in the apartment?
Do they have a what?
A child?
Yes.
How old?
I believe she was around 5 or 6.
And so you said the child was screaming?
Yeah, I think all of them were.
You said you heard things dropping on the floor. What do you
It's like loud noises.
Did you hear any particular items that made you think things were being dropped on the floor?
No, I cannot. I wouldn't be able to identify exactly what. It was just loud noises coming from the other apartment.
Do you know for how long you heard that?
I will say like 10 minutes.
And when you heard a knock at your door, did you get up?
Daniel did. Yeah, we both did.
And who opened the door to your apartment?
Daniel.
And when he opened the door, where were you?
I came to the door with him, I believe.
And what did you see when you looked out your door?
So Anna was asking for help. I think she first said, call 911, and then she said, no, never mind, and I just called my family, and she just borrowed Daniel's phone.
What was her demeanor like, Anna's demeanor?
She was very, very worried. I think she was crying. Yeah, just asking for help.
Where was Anna standing when she was telling you these things?
By the door, our door.
In front of you is People's Exhibit number 18, in front of you in the book. What is shown there?
That's going to be both of our doors. Apartment 3507 and 3506.
Where is your door, on the left or the right of the photograph?
3507 to the left.
Okay. And where is 3508?
Across.
And so this is a fair and accurate depiction of the two apartments and the distance between them?
Correct.
So when Anna was crying and you said looking worried and asking to call 911, where was she?
She was in front of our door.
Okay, so in People's Exhibit number 18, she was closer to the left, where your door is.
Correct.
And what did she, are you standing inside your apartment or outside?
Inside.
Inside the door frame?
Inside of our apartment.
When Anna was telling you these things, did she tell you what someone had done to her?
Yeah, she did mention that Ali was beating her.
Did she use those words, Ali, or did she use another term for him?
He said he.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
At that point, did you know that they were husband and wife?
Yes.
And from what you could see, was there anyone else inside the apartment?
He was inside the apartment.
He meaning the defendant who's sitting here in court?
Correct.
So the defendant and Amira are inside the apartment?
The
The child?
Yes.
Right. Did you know her to be Amira?
No.
So the child and the defendant were inside the apartment? Did you see anyone? Is that a yes?
No. The child was with Anna outside of the apartment when she asked for help.
Okay. But anyone else inside the apartment?
No.
Just the three of them?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yes.
when Anna was outside crying, where was the child Amira?
Next to her.
What was Amira's demeanor like?
She was also asking for help.
Was Amira crying?
Yes.
When you say Amira was asking for help, did she use those specific words?
I don't remember the exact words she used.
Did Amira say anything about what had happened?
Objection on cross fingers thing.
Sustained.
Did, when Anna told you that he was beating her, did she give any other details?
No, she just asked for a phone to call her family. I remember we left the door. We Daniel gave his phone to her, and she took it, and we just left the door open in case she needed anything else. Yeah.
When Anna asked for, did Anna ask you guys to call 911, or did she ask for a phone to call 911?
I think she first asked, call 911, and then she said, no, never mind, can I just have a phone to call my family? Because Ali took her phone.
Was Anna asking you for help?
Yes,
Did she use that word?
yes.
When she asked for the phone to call 911 and then said, no, I'll call my family, what was her demeanor?
She was very worried, crying.
Did Anna say anything else to you before you went back inside your apartment?
No.
And did Amira say anything else to you before she went back inside the apartment?
No.
Did you hear the defendant say anything inside his apartment?
No.
Did you see the defendant leave his apartment at some point?
No. Not that same night.
When you went back inside and left the door open, where were you sitting?
In the couch?
Could you see everything that was happening outside?
No.
How long did you leave the door open?
Like 10 minutes, I'll say. 5 or 10 minutes.
Did you see if Anna went back inside with the phone or where she went?
Yeah, I think she went back inside with the phone and then gave it back to Daniel, I'll say, after 5 or 10 minutes.
Did she ever say anything about her phone?
She said Ali took her phone.
When Anna was talking about calling 911 or not, was she struggling with that decision
Objection on cross
from what you could see?
Overruled, based on our observation.
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
From what you could tell, based on Anna's demeanor and her words, was she struggling with the decision to call 911?
Yes.
Were you able to see the defendant's demeanor or his facial expressions?
No.
Did you see whether or not Anna and Amir stayed in the apartment that night or left?
I don't know. I'm not sure about that.
Well, you weren't paying attention to everything that's happening outside once you went back into your apartment.
I wasn't.
Is that
We
fair to
closed
say?
the door.
Okay. Besides that incident, were there any other times where you heard any violence or screaming from apartment 3508?
Yeah, yes.
How many times?
I will say 2.
What did you hear?
Just screams, loud noises.
The screams from who?
Both.
Both who?
Ali and Anna.
And what about Amira, the child?
No.
Did you ever hear anything violent inside apartment 3508?
Yes.
What did you hear?
Just the fighting. Like twice.
What do you mean by fighting?
Like screaming back and forth in between Ali and Anna.
Did you ever hear any noises or items being thrown, things like that?
Yes.
Okay, what did you hear?
Yeah, just loud noises. I couldn't tell what it was, but just you could just tell that there was some sort of fight.
And did you ever hear Anna screaming any words in particular?
No,
Did you ever hear Anna saying stop it?
not that I remember.
Do you recall being interviewed by Detective Jay Eelson on October 21st of 2021?
Yes,
Okay. If I showed you some of your statements regarding the things that you heard Anna and Amira say from inside the apartment, would that help refresh your memory?
yes.
I'm showing you a transcript from your interview, pages 18 and 19. If you could just read to yourself starting around line 11 and then reading into the next page to line 4. Just read that to yourself and then let me know when you're finished.
Mm-hmm.
Does that help refresh your memory?
Yes.
Okay, and so what were the words that Anna or Amira would use that you would hear from inside your apartment?
Your Honor, objection as to Amira or hearsay.
Can you repeat the question again?
What were the words that Anna or Amira would use that you would hear from inside your apartment?
It's Anna or Amira. What do you divide them between it? Is it Anna or Amira? So it's just standards.
What were the words that you would hear Anna saying from inside the apartment?
Stop it.
Did you hear her scream that or state it?
Screaming.
Did you hear Anna screaming that more than once?
Yes.
On more than one occasion?
Yes.
And would you also hear anyone else scream stop it?
Your Honor, objection calls for hearsay is raised.
Overruled as the question is phrased. Doesn't call for an assertion. Right.
Did the kid also scream?
On one occasion or more than one?
More than one.
And on those occasions where you heard screaming or Anna yelling stop it, could you tell what Anna's demeanor was like? Meaning, was she crying? Was she calm?
Yeah, crying,
What would you hear?
screaming, worried.
Okay. And what about Amira? How could you tell her demeanor was like?
Also the same, crying and worried.
And on those occasions where you would hear screaming from Anna and or Amira, would you hear any of those loud noises that you described?
Yes.
Would you hear items being thrown?
Yes.
Would you hear any other type of violence?
No.
And these times that you heard Anna and Amira screaming stop it, where were you inside your apartment?
In my living room.
Did you ever see Anna and the defendant separating, meaning someone moving items out of the apartment?
Yes.
When? If you can recall.
I think it was right after that big fight.
The one where Anna came to your apartment asking for help?
Yes.
And who did you see leaving the suitcase?
Ali.
That night or at some point?
I think it was next day.
Was there ever a time where you saw Anna in suitcases?
No.
Fair to say you weren't watching their apartment all the time.
Correct.
The screaming that you would hear between the defendant and Anna, do you recall what time frame that was? What month or period of months?
I'll say October, September at night.
But you're just not sure.
Not sure about the months. It was a long time ago.
All right. And at some point, did that screaming stop?
After he moved out, I believe it stopped.
Okay. So you knew at some point the defendant left the apartment. You're just not sure exactly when.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yes.
after the defendant left, then all that screaming stopped.
Correct.
Before October 21st of 2021, did you have any other conversations with Anna about the defendant or
No.
anything else? All right. So I want to talk to you about October 21st, 2021. Were you working that day?
I was working at home.
Were you working at home all day?
Yes.
And where do you work inside your home?
In my office.
At some point that day, did you hear anything that concerned you?
No.
What about as we're getting towards 3 p.m.?
Yes.
What did you hear?
I heard shots.
What do you mean by shots?
Gunshots.
When you heard the gunshots, are you still inside your office?
Yes.
Before the gunshots, did you hear anything coming from apartment 3508?
No.
Any screaming?
No.
Any loud noises?
No.
Any words exchanged between people?
No.
Any conversation or words spoken by any males
No.
inside that apartment? It's a no?
No.
Okay. When you heard the gunshots, could you tell where they were coming from?
I heard the gunshots and I ran through the door to see through the peephole.
Are there any apartments like directly next to yours and Anna's apartment?
There was an apartment next to me and an apartment across,
That further away down the hall?
further away.
Right. Is there a trash chute to the right of your apartment?
Yes.
Okay. And so any apartments would be past that trash chute?
Correct.
Okay. So you hear the gunshots, and then you said you run to your door.
Mm-hmm.
What do you do at your door?
I ran through my door to see through the peephole, the fisheye.
Okay. How many gunshots did you hear?
Multiple.
Remember how many?
4 or 6. There were a lot.
And when you spoke with Detective Nielsen, did you tell him you heard?
Yes. I was very nervous at the moment. I didn't really count when I heard them.
Understood. But when you hear the gunshots, you said you went to your front door and you look out your peephole. What do you see? What can you see outside the peephole?
It was quiet for a moment, and then I see Ali coming outside of his apartment.
So just talking first about the view outside your peephole, what can you see?
I can see across the door, straight to apartment 3506.
3508?
Sorry, yeah, 3508, right across.
The apartment right across from you?
Yeah, I can see the door very clearly.
Okay, can you see the whole door through the peephole?
Yes,
Can you see any part of the floor?
yes.
And how much can, I know there's a wall to the left of you, right?
Mhm.
How much can you see to the right when you're looking out the peephole?
I can see a little bit of the hallway.
Okay, so after you hear the gunshots and you run to do you run to your front door? Or
Yes.
walk?
Run.
And you look outside your peephole, and is apartment 3508, is the front door closed
Yes,
when you first look?
yes.
And you said you heard quiet for a moment or two,
Mhm.
and then you said you saw Ali. You're talking about the defendant here in court.
Correct.
What do you see?
He came out of the apartment.
So the defendant opened the door to 3508 and walked out of his apartment.
Correct.
Where does he go?
I believe he went towards like the elevator. Then he came back. He screamed Anna a few times. He grabbed something from his doormat, like mail, and then he left.
Okay. When you see the defendant leaving his apartment, is he walking or running?
He was walking.
Okay. And do you see his demeanor at all?
Yeah, he seemed worried, like in a rush.
What was he wearing, if you recall?
Dark clothes, like a dark hoodie,
Recall a color?
black.
And do you recall what kind of pants?
Dark pants as well, black.
Did you see whether or not the defendant had anything in his hand?
No,
No, you didn't see, or no, he didn't have anything?
I didn't see.
All right, so you see the defendant leaving. You see him walk towards the elevator, and then is he out of your sight through the peephole?
Yes.
Do you continue, first of all, when he leaves the apartment, does the door to 3508 close?
Yes.
Do you hear anything from inside the apartment?
No.
How long, if you recall, when the defendant left, did he come back?
Not even a minute. It was right away. A few seconds.
Okay, and when the defendant came back, did you say you saw him pick something up from the ground?
Yes.
Was that before he went back inside the apartment or after?
I don't remember.
Okay, that's fine. So when you see, are you still at your peephole watching the door of 3508?
Yes.
So when you see the defendant come back to the apartment, what does he have to do to get inside?
He opened the door with a fob.
Is that how every front door has to be open?
Yes.
There's a little black oval where you flash the fob and it opens the door.
Correct.
Okay, so you saw saw the defendant physically using a fob to open the door,
Yes.
right? And the defendant goes back inside the apartment. Does the door close then after him?
I think so.
Or is he standing in the doorway?
I don't remember.
Alright, so the defendant goes back into the apartment, and you said he screamed Anna?
Yes.
Did he scream any other name?
No.
And then, how long is the defendant inside the apartment?
A few seconds.
And then, what do you see next?
And then I think that's when he grabbed something under the mat, like a piece of mail, and then he leaves.
When the defendant is back inside the apartment, do you hear anything else?
No.
When you see the defendant come back out, he opens the door, and then you're watching him lean over to the floor to
Yes.
pick up something?
Yes.
And then where do you see the defendant go?
I think he went to the elevator. Yeah, he did.
Okay, I'm going to show you a few more exhibits. Okay, now we're on People's Exhibit number 19. What is shown here in this photograph?
That's my apartment, 3507 and 3508.
Is that your apartment 3507 on the left?
Yes.
And is it 3508 on the right?
Correct.
Do you see yellow police tape in this photograph?
Yes.
So this is a photograph of from October 21st of 2021?
Yes.
After the police arrived?
Yes.
Do you see the case of water in front of 3508?
Yes.
Do you recall where the mail was that the defendant picked up when he left?
On top of the mat.
Okay, so we see a brown mat right in front of 3508.
Yes.
So you saw the defendant reach down and pick up the mail from the mat before he left.
Yes.
Okay. And in this photograph, there's no other apartments nearby, correct?
Correct.
And the gray door on the left next to your apartment, is that the trash?
Yes.
All right, if you could flip to the next page, People's Exhibit number 20, what is shown here?
Apartment 3507.
Is that your apartment?
Yes.
And when you were telling us about the people, do you see that in this exhibit?
Yes.
Okay. And so that's the people that you are looking out to see 3508.
Correct.
Right. Now, to enter your apartment, do you always have to use that key fob on that little black oval?
Yes.
Is there ever a way to get inside without the key fob?
No.
Does the door make a sound when it opens and closes?
No.
You hear when the door opens, you can visibly hear it?
I don't think it makes a noise when it opens.
What about when the door closes?
It automatically locks.
Okay, but it makes a noise when it closes, correct? Some type of noise, not a bing, but just a door closing.
Right.
You can
Yeah.
visibly hear a door open, right?
Yes.
And a door close.
Yeah, just the natural noise of a door
Okay.
opening. Yes, correct.
All right.
It's a heavy door.
Thank you. How long after the defendant left the second time, did you see him walk towards the elevator? Or down the hallway?
Down the hallway, yes.
How much longer do you watch at your computer?
I stay there until Daniel comes back home.
At some point after you heard the shots, did you contact Daniel?
Yes, I text him immediately.
call Daniel at some point?
I did, but he didn't have service as he was parking.
Okay. So you texted and called Daniel right after, but you weren't able to speak with him?
Correct.
Right away. And so you said you stayed at your peephole until Daniel came home?
Yes.
Was that shortly after?
Yes, just a few minutes.
I mean, shortly after you heard the gunshots and the defendant left?
Correct.
After the defendant left the second time, before Daniel came home, did the defendant ever come back?
No.
Did you ever see anyone else going into apartment 3508 before the police arrived?
No.
Did you ever see anyone leaving apartment 3508 before the police arrived?
No.
When Daniel came home, did you tell him what you heard?
Yes.
And did Daniel then go to check out what was happening?
Yes.
Did you know that, or did Daniel tell you that he had just seen the defendant in the elevator?
Yes.
And how soon after Daniel arrived back to the apartment did the police arrive?
The police arrived before he did.
Did the police use your apartment for any investigation?
Yes.
Were you inside your apartment at that time or outside?
Inside.
Where were you?
In the living room.
And then at some point did the police ask you to go elsewhere?
So when the police arrived, I opened my door and I let them know that Ali was no longer there. Because I think that the way they were acting, they were scared that somebody's going to shoot them or something. And I told them, well, he already left. And then they asked me what was he wearing. Since the last person I saw was Daniel, I unfortunately described the same clothes Daniel was wearing. And then Daniel shows up to the 35th floor where the police were. And then I was like, no, it's actually not him. That's Daniel. That's my husband. And then I remembered what Ali was wearing. I told them, and then our apartment became part of the crime scene. They put tape on both apartments, like in the hallway, kind of blocking both apartments. We couldn't leave the apartment until they were done. With the investigations. So we stayed in the apartment that whole time.
Okay, and at some point you were moved into the stairwell?
Yes, I was.
While they were doing their investigation?
No, in the beginning, when I opened the door, they kind of pulled me out of my apartment, put me in the stairs, and that's when they were asking the questions, like what was he wearing, what's his name, what's your name, and then that's when Daniel comes, and then we can explain everything, and then we go back into our apartment. But then we cannot leave until the crime scene was over.
Okay. And so were you trying to assist the police with their investigation?
They did ask me questions, detective. I responded, yes. Yeah.
And you told the officers and detective, you were describing the person that you saw after you heard the gunshots, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And so you helped give the police a description of the shooter,
Yes.
right? And then did you and Daniel also provide the police with photographs of who you knew the shooter was?
Yes.
And how were you providing those photographs?
Instagram.
Instagram photographs of who?
Ali.
Okay. The defendant.
Yes.
Right, thank you. I think that
Any questions?
Yes, thank you. Good morning. I'd like to talk to you about, we'll start with October 21st. You spoke with the police essentially close in time after the incident happened, is that right?
Yes.
And you spoke with an officer by the name of Terrell Totten, is that correct?
Yes.
shooting, you heard a male voice yelling, right?
Before the shooting?
Correct.
I don't remember that.
Your Honor, may I approach?
Yes.
Ma'am, I'd like to show you what is your statement as provided to Officer Totten. I'm just going to ask you to just read through it to yourself. Starting here with the statement of Carolina Lacerda, witness. At the time, your last name was Lacerda, is that right?
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, I read it.
Great, I'm going to just grab that back from you if you don't mind. Thank you. Do you recall now having had an opportunity to review the statement that was given by you to Officer Totten, telling him that about 10 minutes ago I could hear a male's voice yelling, and then I heard 6 loud bangs, correct?
Yes.
Do you remember telling him that?
Yes.
Okay, and then you testified here today that you didn't hear anything prior to 6 gunshots, is that right?
I didn't. I think maybe at the time I was really nervous. The only screaming that I heard was after the shots. He screamed Anna.
Okay.
I don't remember screaming before the shots.
Okay, so you told Officer Totten, yes, I heard screaming before the shots, but now as you look back, you think, I don't remember that. Is that correct? And again, the only screaming that you now remember is Mr. Abulaban screaming after the shots, and that was screaming Anna, Anna, Anna. I think you said 3 to 4 times. Is that right?
Correct.
You testified previously in this matter at a preliminary hearing. Is that correct?
Yes.
And you were under oath to tell the truth when you testified before. Is that right?
Yes.
And at the time, you were asked questions by the District Attorney, Ms. Brast, about other instances that you had heard screaming and yelling and things like that coming from the apartment across from yours. Do you recall that?
Yes.
And at that time, when you testified under oath, you didn't say anything about hearing the words "stop it" from either Amira or Anna, correct?
I don't remember.
You don't remember what you testified to, or you don't remember hearing those words?
I remember hearing those words. I don't remember if I testified that in the preliminary hearing.
So at the preliminary hearing back in January of 2022, when you testified, you didn't say anything about hearing those words. Is that what you remember?
I don't remember if I said it or not.
Okay, give me 1 second. You were asked whether police or security had come to the apartment of 3508 on prior occasions. Do you recall that?
Yes.
And you recalled that yes, they had before. Is that correct?
Yes.
And you were asked whether on those dates you saw or heard anything prior to the police coming, and you said no, correct?
Correct.
You were asked about anything else that you heard in September, and you said not as loud, maybe a little bit of speaking or a little bit of screaming. Correct? Do you want to have a look at it?
Correct.
Correct, you want to have a look, or correct, you're agreeing with what you
I'm agreeing.
Testified to, did you hear anything else, things being thrown inside, screams, loud speaking, and maybe arguing, correct?
I said yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
Nothing about specific words of stop it by either Anna or Amira, correct?
Correct.
When you, the night that you say that Anna came to your door, you testified for us that you were on the couch watching TV with your husband, is that correct?
Correct.
And that you heard a loud knock on the door, correct?
Yes.
But you say prior to hearing the loud knock, you heard screaming and fighting coming from across the hallway,
Yes.
and your husband then answered the door after the knock.
He did.
When you heard the screaming and fighting that you say was coming from across the hallway, did you say anything to your husband, Daniel?
I don't remember.
Is that something that if you'd heard it, you would have said, Daniel, do you hear that? Do you think you would have had any sort of response to hearing that from across the hallway?
Yes.
So then do you think it's likely that you said something to Daniel
Yeah.
to bring it to his attention that you were hearing something from across the hallway?
Yes.
And then he got up and he answered the door, is that right?
Yes.
And it's your testimony that while your door was open, you could see into the apartment across the hall from yours?
Yes.
And you could see Mr. Abulaban inside of the apartment?
Yes.
And you testified previously at the preliminary hearing that you actually saw him kind of coming in and out of the apartment while your door was open, is that right?
Yes.
So you never saw his ankles or his feet like leaving the apartment, anything like that?
No.
You testified that the next day you saw Ali moving out because you saw him with a suitcase, is that correct?
Yes.
You saw Ali with a suitcase and you're assuming that he moved out, is that right?
Correct.
Because after this incident that you say happened with Anna at the door of your home, Mr. Abulaban actually came to your home for a birthday party for your husband, correct?
I don't remember if that was before or after.
Your husband or your ex-husband's birthday was September 17th, is that right?
Yes.
And you don't recall whether then this incident happened before or after September 17th?
I don't recall.
And all of these times that you're saying you're hearing all of these things coming, you want a minute to think about it?
No.
Okay, it just looked like you were maybe kind of,
I'm trying to remember. I'm sorry. It was
That's okay.
a long time ago.
it was, it's okay. All of the times before that you say you heard loud noises and things breaking and sort of a fighting from across the hallway, did you ever call the police?
No.
Did you ever call security for your building?
No.
Did you ever say anything to Mr. Abulaban?
No.
On October 21st, when you saw him, Mr. Abulaban, come out of the apartment after the gunshots, he looked stressed to you, right?
Yes.
And frantic?
Yes.
And he was, did you hear him talking on the phone at all?
No.
And you described that he walked down the hallway, is that correct?
Yes.
At some point you lost sight of him because your apartment, at the time your apartment was such a way that looking to the right you could only see so much out of the people, right?
Correct.
And are you aware that there was a Nest camera on the apartment door of one of your neighbors on the other side of the hallway?
No.
Thank you, nothing further.
Any other questions?
Yes, thank you. You were asked questions and shown a police report with a statement you gave to Officer Totten, is that right?
Yes.
And did you ever review Officer Totten's wording of this police report in regards to your statement to be able to make any changes to it?
No.
Did you speak with Officer Totten shortly after the police arrived, after you heard the gunshots?
Yes.
Okay. So when you were telling Officer Totten that you heard a male's voice, were you referring to him screaming Anna?
Correct.
Okay. So when it's worded as about 10 minutes ago, that's because that's about when you heard that happen, right?
Yes.
Okay. So you weren't telling Officer Totten that 10 minutes prior to seeing the defendant, he was screaming, right? That's not what
Yes.
you were telling him.
Correct.
What you were telling the officer was that you heard the defendant screaming after you heard the gunshots.
Correct.
And so if this is worded in a different manner, that's not how you said it, right?
Yes.
That's just how the police officer worded his report.
Yes.
Because you never heard the defendant say or yell anything prior to the gunshots.
Complete silence.
And the only thing you ever heard the defendant yell was the name Anna.
Correct.
And when you were asked questions about whether or not you testified at the preliminary hearing about Anna saying the word "stop it," were you just maybe not necessarily asked that question?
I wasn't asked that question, the specific question.
Okay. So when you were telling Detective Eelson on October 21st of 2021 that you heard prior violence and screaming and Anna and Amira yelling "stop it," you were being truthful at that time, right?
Yes.
And that was fresher in your memory than the preliminary hearing.
Correct.
You were asked about whether or not you ever called 911 or the police. Did you want to get involved in your neighbor's marriage?
No.
Is that why you didn't call the police?
Correct.
Okay. And were there times where you did see the police come to their apartment or security?
Yes.
Do you know how many times?
Once.
Right, thank you. Nothing further.
Just briefly, you know that your statement to Officer Totten was recorded? Are you aware of that?
No.
Are you aware that he was wearing a body-worn camera at the time you spoke with him?
No.
And so when you spoke with him and you said, about 10 minutes ago, I could hear a male's voice, you didn't speak to Officer Totten 10 minutes after the shooting, right?
Can you repeat that question?
Sure. In your statement to Officer Totten, you said, about 10 minutes ago, I could hear a male's voice. Do you remember saying that? We just talked about that a few minutes ago.
Yeah, I just read it.
You didn't, when you spoke to Officer Totten, that wasn't 10 minutes after the incident, right? It was a few hours after the incident.
Correct.
Thank you. Nothing further.
Anyone else? Any more
But
questions?
when you spoke with Officer Totten, it was very shortly after the incident, right?
Yes.
Thank you. Nothing further.
No, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Next.
Thank you. People call Tracy Hodgson.
Do you solemnly state that the testimony you're about to give in this matter shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Please have a seat on the witness stand. Please tell us your first and last name,
Tracy Hodgson,
and please spell both of those names.
TracyHodgson.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
What is your current occupation?
I work for the San Diego Police Department as a police investigative service officer.
What does that mean?
I retrieve audio, including 911, non-emergency calls, and radio transmission for district attorneys, city attorneys, or detectives or sergeants.
How long have you held that position?
With the department, 11 years, and in that position, 4.
What other occupations have you had within the department?
I worked in customer service and teletype.
What does that mean?
It's a unit that enters in stolen vehicles and missing persons.
Are you a 911 dispatcher?
No.
Or do you pull the calls and retrieve them and listen to them from law enforcement?
I pull calls and listen to them for law enforcement or attorneys.
Okay. Are you a custodian of records for communications?
Yes.
And you said you've held that job for about 4 years?
Yes.
How often would you say you pull 911 calls?
Probably at least 40 a day.
So you pull 911 calls and you provide them to other agencies?
Other agencies or attorneys or detectives or chiefs, sergeants.
And can you tell us how you're able to pull those calls? Where are they located?
They're located in a system called NICE, and I'm able to identify it by the date and the time and the call taker.
How do you spell nice? Is it common spelling?
Yes.
How long are 911 calls stored?
25 months.
And so someone asks you to pull a call for a certain incident, how do you look it up?
The date and the time and the call taker.
What do you mean by call taker?
The operator.
The 911 dispatcher?
Yes.
How do you know who the call taker is?
They say their ID number at the beginning of the call.
Okay, so all you have to have is the date, time, and the ID number for the dispatcher, and you're able to enter that information into the NICE system
Yes.
and then pull the call.
Yes.
And then how do you save the call once you pull it?
It's saved as a WAV file.
When you pull a call, where do you put it? Do you put it on a disk?
It's saved onto a Y drive.
And is that how police officers and detectives can access the 911 call?
Depending on who the requester is, it's sent to them in either a cloud or put on a disk if it's a certain type of crime.
And so there are times where you'll put the 911 calls onto a disk and send them out to whatever agency is requesting it?
I would hand the disk to the requesting person.
And did you pull a 911 call associated with this case from October 21st, 2021 at 3:10 p.m.?
Yes.
And describe how you were able to pull that call.
I looked up the date and the time and the call taker that's referenced in the CAD and was able to pull the call and verify that it was the correct call and save it.
Okay. Did you listen to the call?
Yes.
Pulled it? Are there other occasions where agencies or law enforcement ask you to pull a call and you listen to a call to verify and then you provide it?
Yes.
And who was the call taker for this particular 911 call that you pulled?
This one was dispatcher Carrie Sousa.
Can you spell that for us, please?
Carrie. Last name Sousa, Sceusa.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to play that call that you pulled and then I'll ask you some questions about it.
Counsel, have these been identified already?
Not yet. Okay, I have People's Exhibit number 21 that I will be playing, and the transcript is People's Exhibit 22.
Thursday, October 21, 2021, 15:10 and 26 seconds.
San Diego Emergency, dispatcher 8107.
Yes, ma'am. My wife and another man were, I found them dead on the couch, bullet holes in the face.
Rick, someone was shot?
Two people, a man and my wife.
Okay, what's the location? What's the location?
It's 1475 Island Avenue, Fire, San Diego. It's going to be apartment 3508.
Apartment, okay, hold on, this fire. Apartment 3508?
Yes.
Okay, stand by.
Please help my wife. Please help
We're good. Okay, hold on, sir. Sir, stand by. I'm bringing on my supervisor. What is your name?
My name is Ali.
Ali? Okay.
Yes, I'm her husband.
I understand. Ali, what's your last name?
Abulaban. Abulaban.
Okay, hold on.
Please help them.
Sir, stand by for my supervisor. Do not hang up, okay?
Okay, but you
I just, hold on.
I'll be here in just a second. What's the number?
34026. We will need medics. He says his wife was shot.
Okay.
Okay, sir. Ali?
Yeah.
Ali, are you there with her? Are you in the apartment?
No, I left.
Okay. Are you nearby?
I'm leaving there.
Okay, hold on. I need to confirm the location. Listen, 14755.
San Diego.
Three.
San Diego. Next to Pinnacle in the Park. 1475 Island Avenue. Apartment number 3508.
350808.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So hold on. Tell me what you saw when you went in there.
I saw my wife on the couch. Put my phone on her head.
Wife is on her?
I don't know who he is. I know him. He's in a gray.
Ray? Okay, but I know you said your wife was shot in the face. Is that what you said?
Yeah, on the forehead. And he had two little pretty bullets in the head.
He's also shot? Ray is?
Yes.
Okay. Did he have the gun still? Was there anyone else in the apartment?
No, I don't know. I just talked to him.
I'm sorry, was it two people that were shot inside the apartment?
Correct, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we have two people shot inside the apartment and no one else, as far as you know, was in the apartment, right?
No, ma'am. I couldn't even breathe my phone. It was so terrible.
I'm sorry,
Okay.
was it an accident? Did you say it was an accident, or did you know who did it?
Yes. So,
He
sir?
disconnected, right?
Oh, he just did, yes.
Okay.
I'll call that.
Did we get any further?
No, he said he walked into the apartment, the wife was on the couch, she was shot in the head, and there was a man in there who was also shot. And then we have the name Ray, and that was really all he said. And he said he's leaving.
Who
I'll
ran?
call him back.
Okay, who ran?
He ran out of the apartment. He left the
And the
apartment.
second male was shot, was he on the floor?
He said that before the hospital, he said they were both on the couch.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, ma'am, listening to that call, was that Carrie's, I'm sorry, can you say the last name for me?
Sousa?
Sousa. Was that Carrie Sousa's voice?
Yes, and that's her operator ID number.
Okay. So when she says San Diego Emergency Dispatcher 8107, that's her ID number?
Yes.
So that's the call taker ID number that you enter along with the date and time to locate this call?
So when I go to locate the call, they're sitting at a certain console, and I'm looking at the console number. So it's not identified by their ID number, but once they say their ID number, then I know that it's that dispatcher.
Okay. And do you know her?
Yes,
Have you heard her voice?
multiple times.
That was her voice?
Yes.
The first female voice on the phone,
Yes.
on the call? Okay. And when, at the beginning of the call, when it says the date and the time, is that a military time?
Yes, and it's a timestamp that's applied once the call is saved.
Okay. So when on the call it says 15:10, what time is that?
3:10 p.m.
Okay. And that's when the call is first placed
Yes.
by the reporting party, by the caller.
That's when the call is picked up by the dispatcher.
And when when you were listening to this call, the male on the call identifies himself as Ali Abulaban.
Yes.
Basically the first thing that Mr. Abulaban says on the call is, I found them dead,
Yes.
and I found them on the couch.
Yes.
When the other female comes onto the phone, what is happening there?
That's what we refer to as a hot call. So a lead or a supervisor comes on the line at the same time so that the lead or supervisor can also talk as well as the 911 dispatcher.
And does that only happen in extremely serious cases, or is that in typical for calls?
That would be an extreme case.
Okay. And was that this case?
Yes.
So when Mr. Abulaban on the call said, I'm leaving, was that concerning at all to hear?
Objection, Your Honor. Calls for speculation lack foundation from this witness. She's not a 911 dispatcher.
You've heard many 911 calls, is that fair to say?
Yes.
Okay. Are calls made by crime victims?
Calls are made by all sorts of reporting parties.
Okay. So what is a reporting party?
The person that's actually calling 911.
Okay. And so when Mr. Abulaban is calling 911, is he referred to as a reporting party?
Yes.
Okay. And when Mr. Abulaban said, I don't know who he is, then he later said he did know who the male was, right?
Yes.
Okay. And then the dispatchers continuing to ask him questions, and then ultimately they don't hear from him anymore, right?
Yes, he hung up.
The dispatcher was asking Mr. Abulaban, did he have the gun still? And did Mr. Abulaban respond, I don't know, I just walked in to go check on them?
Yes.
And then afterwards, Mr. Abulaban said, it's so terrible, like what he saw.
Yes.
Right. And at no time did Mr. Abulaban say that he was a shooter in that call?
He did not.
Okay. Did you know anything about the incident before you listened to the 911 call?
No.
And towards the end of the call, the dispatcher is saying, I'll call him back. Is that typical for a dispatcher to do if someone hangs up on them?
Yes.
Why?
Because they want to see if they have any more information from the reporting party that can be relayed on the CAD.
And according to your research and knowledge, were there any other calls made by Mr. Abulaban after this one?
Not to my knowledge without the CAD.
Okay. And there was no calls placed by a dispatcher to Mr. Abulaban where he then answered it after this one?
Without the CAD, I wouldn't be able to say for certain.
All right, thank you. Nothing further.
Any questions?
Yes, good morning.
Good morning.
You said you listened to this call when you first pulled it or in anticipation of testifying for this case?
I listened in both cases.
And then you were called as a witness to come in and testify sort of in place of Ms. Sousa, is that correct?
That's correct.
And when you listened to this, you would not only listen to it, but then you have the transcript in front of you, is that right?
I have a computer-aided dispatch in front of me, and it's notes that the dispatcher is entering in about the call, but it's not an actual transcription.
So you had that previously, and then coming in to testify today, when we all just heard the 911 call, you had the transcript in front of you, is that right?
Yes.
And when the telephone call came in, it didn't come from a home line, it came from like a cell phone, is that right?
If I were to see the CAD, I would be able to tell if it came on a cell phone.
When the dispatchers were asking the caller, Mr. Abulaban, where all of this was, he gave the address many times over, right?
Yes, that's common.
And he told them exactly what it was, where it was, and the apartment number, correct?
Yes.
And he gave all that information prior to the call disconnecting, or him disconnecting the call, is that right?
Yes.
He also was asked what happened, and he said, "No ma'am, something accident. I couldn't even breathe when I saw them. It's so terrible." Is that right?
Yes.
And you don't know, as you sit here having reviewed this call and listening to it, whether that is, "I couldn't even breathe when I saw them," at what point he was referring to when he saw them, right?
Right.
He also was asked if he knew the male, and he identified the male as Ray. Is that right?
Yes.
Thank you. Nothing further.
Any other questions?
When you listened to the call, you didn't know whether or not Mr. Abulaban was telling the truth about things he said in the call, right?
No.
Thank you. Nothing further.
Thank you. Next witness.
Can I have a moment?
Yes. If you want to stand, feel free to stand.
Do you solemnly state that the testimony you're about to give in this matter shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Please have a seat on the witness stand. Please tell us your first and last name,
Diego Arenas,
and please spell both of those names.
Diagoarellanes.
Thank you.
All right, good morning.
Good morning.
What is your current occupation?
I'm police officer of Sandy Police Department. I'm assigned to a Central Division Patrol.
Just make sure you speak slow for the reporter in front of you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. How long have you been a police officer?
A little over 5 years.
Can you describe the training that you have received to become a police officer?
Went through the academy, and then face training.
What is face training?
It's where you are assigned with a field training officer. That's up 4 months, and you're evaluated to see if you can run on your own.
And what type of training did you receive in the academy?
Firearms, DTAC, law, case law.
What training have you received in homicide or shooting investigations?
They just train us with investigating crimes and things to do with that.
Are you talking about in the academy or on-the-job training?
Both.
What is the on-the-job training?
Face training.
Meaning in regards to homicide or shooting investigations?
Correct. When you're in face training, you get explained, what to do when you're investigating a crime.
Approximately how many investigations or calls have you responded to regarding shootings?
Over 50 to 100.
And how many of those were homicides?
I can't give an exact, but probably around 5, give or take.
All right, I'd like to talk to you about October 21st, 2021. What radio call did you respond to around 3:11 p.m.?
The shooting.
Where?
1475 Island.
Is that in the county of San Diego?
Yes, ma'am.
Were you wearing full police uniform?
Correct.
Were you driving a marked police vehicle?
Correct.
Were you wearing body-worn camera?
Correct.
Are you wearing body-worn camera right now?
Correct.
Can you show the jury where it is? Okay. Let the record reflect the witness pointed to a black camera
Yes.
on the chest area of his uniform. Why do you wear body-worn camera?
Document any enforcement contacts.
What does that mean?
Anytime we're out in the field responding to a call or stopping somebody or just engaging with the community, we activate our camera if we believe there's potential for enforcement.
body-worn camera document so everything in front of you?
Correct.
And when you interview a crime victim or a witness, is that all documented on the body-worn camera?
Correct.
Who was your partner that day?
Officer Todd?
And when you responded to 1475 Island Avenue, where did you go?
We parked in front of the apartment complex, and we went to the front lobby.
And when you went to the lobby, then what did you do?
I pulled out my department rifle. We waited for a few more officers.
Why did you pull out your rifle?
It was a hot call, so there was very limited information. We just knew we responded to a shooting where we had two potential victims that were injured. We had no information as far as where the suspect was at. So
You had no information about the suspect? Is that what you said?
at the time, initially,
Okay. Well, what is a hot call?
the hot calls were just a critical call, and the call taker makes a decision to basically immediately broadcast information to patrol officers. So the only information initially we have is generally like it's a stabbing or a shooting in a location, and as the call taker is getting the details from the reporting party, we get updates on the call.
Okay. And so what other information did you receive during that hot call?
We had the unit number, and I believe the reporting party, the caller, identified himself as Abulaban, and he said his wife and a male had been shot in the apartment.
And so at that point, did you know whether the shooter was still inside the apartment or somewhere else?
We did not know where he was at.
How long did it take you to arrive at the building after you got the dispatch call at 3:11 p.m.?
Say a few minutes, maybe.
It was quick.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So you enter the lobby and you said you have your rifle out.
Correct.
Then where do you go?
We're waiting for officers, kind of establishing a plan. And then a male comes out, Daniel Lacerda, I believe. He lived across 3508 with his wife, and I believe he told one of the officers something to the effect that his wife had heard the gunshots, or he had heard the gunshots.
Okay. And when you spoke with Mr. Lacerda, where was this?
It was in the front lobby, right by the elevators.
And so you were waiting in the lobby to form the team, waiting for some other officers?
Correct. We're still trying to figure out just a contact team and a plan to go up there.
And why was it that you were trying to figure out a plan?
Just when we respond to these, shootings, critical incidents with limited information, we want to make sure we have some sort of plan in place, especially when the suspect's outstanding. We have no details as to what they look like or where they're at. We want at least some sort of lethal coverage, less lethal if we can have it, and then some sort of hands team and a canine if possible.
Okay. What's a hands team?
Someone that would just take the person into custody and place them in handcuffs.
And why would you need a canine team?
Anytime we are contacting someone, like someone that's possibly a suspect of a shooting onto the weapon, we always get a contact team, which again includes lethal, less lethal, someone to arrest a person, and then we want the canine, just so we have all our de-escalation.
Okay. And then how were you able to get onto the elevator?
I believe Mr. Lacerda had the key fob
And where did you go?
to the 35th floor.
How long did it take to get up to the 35th floor?
A few minutes from when we saw him to when we actually got up there.
Were stops made on the elevator?
I
People
think
getting on and off?
it opened at one point, and then we just continued up.
Okay. So only open at one point, and it still took a couple minutes to get all the way up to the 35th floor.
A minute or so.
And when you got off on the 35th floor, where did you go?
We cleared the hallways, and we made it to. We located where 3508, and then Mr. Service apartment was at.
Okay. And how many officers are there at that time?
I think we had at least 4 or 5 officers. Officers kept coming in as time went on.
Why is that?
We started broadcasting some information. It was kind of difficult due to the high rise. We didn't have good radio reception. But I believe at one point, Officer Nisley activated his emergency. Nisley? He activated his emergency button on his radio. So at that point, just every officer started making their way towards us.
And so when you got off the elevator, did you have to make some turns to get to the apartment?
Correct.
Where did you go?
I don't recall the exact turns.
Okay. So at some point you get to the end of a hallway,
Correct.
right? Is that where apartment 3508 is?
Correct.
Right, on the right?
Correct.
And then 3507 is on the left.
Correct.
Where do you go when you get to that end of the hallway?
There was like a stairway, like alcove. We kind of set up there so we had some sort of cover. And then we just started making call outs to 3508.
What does that mean?
Whenever we're addressing someone in an apartment or in a building or in a vehicle, we announce ourselves as police, and then we give them commands to what we want them to do.
Did you hear anything from inside apartment 3508?
No.
And what happened next?
Officer Nisley was giving commands, and I think at some point during that, Mr. Lizard's wife, I think she opened the door. Then we noticed that.
When she opened the door, then what did you do?
I think initially we told her to close the door, and then we made a decision that we would use her apartment or their apartment as a stepping, we would move all the officers there, better tactical position.
What does that mean?
The position we were at, there was a lot of officers exposed, and there was a lot of us in that little stairway entrance. So we decided it'd be better if we could start getting resources. We could have the officers all tuck in into the neighboring apartment, and then it would just minimize the exposure to the officers.
Okay. At that time, do you know whether or not the shooter is still inside the apartment?
We still don't know.
So you said that it's a better tactical decision to go inside the neighboring apartment for the police to have cover?
Correct.
So when you were all inside apartment 3507, how many officers are inside?
Probably at least 10. I know we had a few canine officers, a few supervisors, and again, there was just officers making their way, so there was quite a few of us.
Okay, what do you mean by supervisors?
Sergeants.
Right, and when you're inside apartment 3507, what plan is being formed?
I believe prior to that we had asked for a knocker, a shield, so we started setting up the shield for cover, and I think we're making the plan to make an emergency entry and force entry into 3508.
What is a knocker?
It's a big piece of metal covered in plastic with 2 handles, and we use it to forcibly enter and knock down doors.
Were you able to get inside 3508 any other way?
No.
You didn't have a key fob to get inside?
Correct.
Is that how you enter those apartments?
It depends on the high rise with key fobs, keys, or a pin.
How long are you and the other officers and sergeants inside 3507?
Maybe 5 minutes.
And then what is the plan that's ultimately developed?
I'd be lethal, so I'd be number 1 through the door. Sergeant Nguyen was gonna use the knocker to force entry, and then I believe the plan was to stop and evaluate what we had once the door was open.
Okay. So you were assigned as the number 1 officer to go into the apartment?
Correct.
Okay. And when you said you were assigned lethal, what does that mean?
Then my sole job was to address any, if I had to use deadly force, that'd be my job.
And why would you have to use force?
The shooter was still outstanding, and we didn't know where he was at.
Okay. So he could potentially be inside the apartment?
Correct.
Now, at the time that you got that hot call, you said that was from know at that time that he was the shooter?
No.
Did you know whether or not the information he provided on that 911 call was truthful?
Objection, calls for speculation, lack of foundation, relevance.
Did you know whether any information that Mr. Abulaban provided on that call was truthful?
No.
So, did you receive information that he had reported that he had just found the bodies?
I believe the notes just said that his wife and a male had been shot in the apartment.
All right, I'm gonna play another recording.
How long is this?
4 minutes. I'm going to play for you People's Exhibit number 23, body worn camera clip, and People's 24 is the transcript. Playing People's 23.
Let's go back. I can hold it to the ceiling. Fuck, dude. Alright, go. 2, 3. One more. I got eyes. Hit it low, underneath the handle. One more. Stand by. Okay, sorry, go back. We gotta clear. Oh shit, we got two down. Emergency entry, I need a team. You got three. Hey, bathroom's clear. Slow down. I already cleared. I'm here. Bathroom's clear. I got it. I got a closet. Alright, room's clear. Clears that. Fuck. Hold on, we got a balcony. We're clear. Hey, stand by. Hey, once this place is clear, we need to hold the evidence. We need to clear out and just hold it off.
Oh, yeah, don't move anything.
Don't fire. Guys, have we checked Have we checked pulse, guys? Check pulse. Where's firearm?
It sounds like there's a third shooter. Someone came here and shot them. That's the guy that he's describing.
Okay. He has a match description of our.
Hey, round. Alright, hey, we need people to start clearing out. And just look for a gun. Yeah.
There's a couple cases in here.
Yeah, Sarge, it is.
Mark, keys. Mark, okay. I didn't check that. just start marking the bones in there. Go in there.
No, I didn't see anything. Alright, hey guys, let's gather up.
Yeah.
Alright. Those are casing stations. Alright, so.
I just want to maintain like the integrity of the. That's why I wanted to just get out of here and just have fun.
Let's so. Do me a favor, help out with security for us. I don't want someone coming back, doubling back over here and smoking this, okay? So you're posted up on that. Let's have you two hang out here, just start looking for evidence, staying here, walking on the scene.
I'm gonna need you and my security team, Joe.
Alright, if we time for us to take our morning break, I'll see everybody back in time. Please remain seated, come to order. This court is getting session. Next question.
Thank you. Okay, People's Exhibit number 23 that I just played, was that an exact depiction of a portion of your body-worn camera footage from October 21st of 2021?
Yes, ma'am.
Was your entire body web camera footage longer than that?
Correct.
So the information that you testified to earlier about going to the building and waiting for the officers and establishing a plan, was that all on your body-worn camera?
Correct.
Okay. And so what we saw here was just this, the plan in action, the breaking down of the door.
Correct.
Okay. And then you're the one who is first up holding the rifle, correct?
Correct.
You. And you're telling the sergeant to hit it low and essentially to break, how he needs to break open the door. Correct? Okay, then once you enter, why are you clearing all the rooms?
We still don't know where the suspect's at, so we just want to make sure we're safe and we've cleared the apartment.
Okay. So you were checking the bathroom and you didn't see a suspect in there?
Correct.
Same with the office area? And can you describe how that office appeared?
It looked like it was like ransacked.
Why do you say ransacked?
Just everything was on the ground. It looked like someone was like searching for something or going through it.
And then did you search the closet in that room and you said clear?
Correct.
Okay, so didn't see a suspect in there?
Correct.
And then you moved on to the balcony?
Correct.
And you cleared the balcony? While you were doing that, were the other officers trying to attend to the two victims on the couch?
Correct.
So when you first came into the apartment, was the coffee table set up in front of the two bodies?
Correct.
Meaning in its normal position?
Correct.
Right, and then did an officer move the coffee table?
Correct.
Why was that done?
So you just better assess the victims and render first aid.
Now, at the time that you entered, did you know that both the victims were deceased?
I do not know.
How was that determined?
Really, the officers that made contact with them, the ones that stated that.
Okay. So when you hear in the video that about checking pulse, is that what the officers were doing to render first aid?
I believe so.
When you, on the video, after you are clearing all the rooms on the left, you said we need to clear out and just hold it off. What did you mean by that?
At that point, we had determined they were deceased, so we wanted to maintain the crime scene to preserve whatever evidence was there
And were you and the other officers making sure, like, where you were walking?
Correct.
Were there things on the ground?
Correct.
What was on the ground?
I believe there was spent shell casings and then some live rounds that were found.
What is a spent shell casing?
I think it's been fired from a gun.
And what's a live round?
It has not been fired.
What else did you see on the ground?
I think there was beer cans.
Were there flowers on the ground?
Correct.
Is there a pumpkin on the ground?
Correct.
Were you, in particular, making sure to step over everything?
Correct.
Okay. Why did you do that?
Again, we just want to, once we determine, if they were deceased, we want to just try to maintain everything at its original position. So that's why, we had a lot of officers moving through, so we want to make sure that we had minimal officers walking through the crime scene now.
And is that standard procedure?
Correct.
For responding to these calls?
Correct.
Okay. In the video, an officer said he doesn't match the description. What did that mean?
I believe Mr. Lucero had provided some description to one of the officers that I believe they were referring to the male victim that he didn't match what we had.
Okay. And were you, when you were in the apartment, was everyone wearing a radio?
Correct.
Okay. And so what radio traffic was going on inside the apartment?
I don't recall. I mean, we had really bad radio reception.
Were the officers being given information as it was coming in regards to, for example, what the shooter looked like?
I believe one of the officers broadcasted a description. I just don't recall what it was.
And were you and other officers trying to determine whether the individual on the couch matched the description of the shooter?
Correct.
Okay. And then did you all determine he did not match?
Correct.
All right. You then said later on in the video that we need people to start clearing out. What did you mean by that?
Just preserve the scene. Have minimal officers walking in the crime scene. Just secure it.
You said just start marking the bullets. What did you mean by that?
We'll try to put we have a small notebook most officers carry. We'll rip out a page and we'll put it next to the evidence just so, just a visual sign that this is evidence.
Okay, so when officers arrive on scene, you start to mark evidence with, is it a little piece of white paper?
Correct.
And you fold it over and you start marking evidence?
Correct.
And is that to aid the detectives who come onto the scene later on?
Correct.
All right, and the officer in the video towards the end giving the commands, who is that?
That was a sergeant, Sergeant Owen.
Okay. And when he told you to help out with security, what did that mean?
We still didn't. We knew that the male wasn't the shooter. We believed he wasn't the shooter, and we didn't know where the shooter was. So he wanted someone to hold security so that someone didn't come up behind us.
So after you cleared the rooms and were inside the apartment that we saw on the body web camera, what did you do next?
I believe I got another officer, and we just held security outside of the apartment complex.
Outside the complex?
Sorry, outside of the apartment, in the hallway.
Okay. So you and another officer held security outside 3508?
Correct.
How long did you do that?
5-10 minutes, I believe.
And during those 5 to 10 minutes, did the shooter or anyone else come back to the apartment?
No.
What did you do after that?
We stayed there. There was some information that was broadcasted over the radio that a possible suspect had been located and stopped. I think there was some back and forth between the supervisors, and it was determined that there was a good possible. And then at that point, I just stayed on scene. My partner had located a witness and was interviewing them. So I just stayed there until I was relieved. I believe the homicide detectives arrived.
Okay. And you said that your partner was Officer Totten, and he was interviewing some witnesses.
Correct.
Is that the neighbors next door?
Correct.
of you, you have People's Exhibit number 25. Tell us what is shown here.
It's the male and the female victim as we found her.
Okay. And a fair and accurate depiction of how they appeared when you first entered the apartment.
Correct.
Okay. But the picture's taken after the coffee table is moved, correct?
Correct.
Okay. All right, thank you. Dr. Furman.
Any questions?
Just very briefly. Good morning, officer.
Good morning.
You mentioned that when you all walked into the apartment, at some point everyone realized, like, gosh, we should leave and kind of not disturb things that may be pieces of evidence, right?
Correct.
But that was after approximately 10 of you had walked into the apartment, correct?
Correct. There's a few of us in there.
I'm sorry?
There was a few of us in there.
And again, it was, you were responding to an emergency, right? And so that's the correct protocol that you would go in and kind of assess everything, right?
Correct.
But at the same time, if there were things on the floor, pieces of evidence, it could have been shuffled around or kicked, not on purpose, but on accident by police responding to this emergency, right?
Correct.
But you were doing everything you could once you got in to sort of step over things, make sure you didn't step on any other things that you described, like the live rounds, right?
Correct.
Or the spent rounds, correct?
Correct.
Now, when you came into the apartment, when we saw on the BWC, the television was on, is that correct?
Correct.
And there was like music playing, like a music channel playing through the television, is that right?
Correct.
There was alcohol, you said beer cans on the ground, but there was also alcohol on the table, the coffee table, is that correct?
I don't remember exactly. I know there was on the ground.
Okay. Did you move the coffee table or did someone else move the coffee table?
Another officer moved it.
Do you know who did that?
I think it was Officer Barnett, but I'm not sure.
Did you ever do anything specifically with the decedents? Did you look at them? Did you get a good look at them or move them in any way?
Didn't move them, and I did see them when I walked in, and they were there until we moved out of the apartment.
Also, they were seated on a couch, and then behind them on the wall was like a photo of a person or some sort of engraving of a person. Did you see that? Do you remember seeing that?
I know to the right there was I think it was like a YouTube award or something like that.
Okay, it was, do you remember, it was some sort of award, and it was the picture of Mr. Abulaban's face, is that right?
Correct.
When you noticed at some point that there were live rounds on the floor, did you discover those or did someone else discover those?
I saw them.
And a live round, you said to us, it's just like a regular bullet, right?
Correct. It hasn't been shot. The projectile and the casing are all intact still.
Okay, so it just looks like what most of us probably think of when we think of a bullet, right?
Correct.
And if those were in a gun, how would they have ended up out of a gun if they weren't fired through the gun?
Just from previous shootings, I know sometimes it's from the suspect trying to clear a malfunction, or they're not aware of the status of their weapon, and they have a round chambered already, and they go to rack it, and they'll eject a live round. I can't say for sure, but that's from my experiences.
From your experience, it could be, and this is experience being a police officer and using firearms as part of your training, right?
Correct.
And this was something you were taught in the academy, is that right?
Academy, and then throughout field training, and then just being on the job.
So a round, I'm just going to kind of break it down a little bit. When you have a gun, you put bullets inside of a magazine, right?
Correct.
And then the magazine goes into the gun.
Correct.
And then that, when you pull the trigger, the internal mechanism causes the bullet to go from the magazine into the chamber and then out of the gun.
You put the magazine in, and then you chamber it around by racking the slide, or whatever the mechanism for that firearm, and then put it in the barrel, and then when you pull the trigger, release the firing pin, which would strike the primer and let the round go.
And so racking a gun, is that something that needs to happen with every gun?
Correct.
So what's the difference between like an automatic weapon and a non-automatic weapon?
Any gun has to be at some point not loaded, so with an empty chamber. And when you put a gun that's not loaded, you put the magazine in, you would have to manipulate some sort of charging handle or slide or bolt to pull a round out and then seat it in the chamber. So
you're ready to fire it.
not sure of the exact make. I believe it was a Glock, I think is what was said.
Okay. And then for a Glock, it's the same sort of thing, right? You put the bullets into the magazine in, you have to rack it in order for one of the bullets to come out of the magazine and into the chamber, is that right?
Correct.
And so then when you pull the trigger, the bullet comes from the magazine from the chamber and fires out from the firing pin hitting it, is that right?
Correct.
Thank you, nothing further.
Officer, you didn't personally kick any of the live rounds or the cartridge casings on the ground, right?
Correct.
And you didn't see any other officers kick any of them?
Correct.
Right. Do you recall where you saw the shell casings and the live rounds?
If you're looking at the couch where the victims, I believe they were to the right, from what I recall.
What do you mean to the right? Like in the living room?
In the living room, correct.
Okay.
Closer to the kitchen.
All right. So are we talking about the dining room area?
They were still in the living room. If you're looking at the victims to the right.
Okay. To the right behind the couch?
I believe so. In front and behind.
Right. And you weren't necessarily searching for every piece of evidence in the apartment, right?
Correct. I noticed a few, and then other officers canvassed for what they could find.
Okay. So when you noticed the fire casings or the live rounds that you saw, you were telling officers to mark them?
Correct.
Okay. And then once it's marked, you said that little white paper is folded over, and is it placed entirely over the piece of evidence?
Sometimes they put it over, sometimes to the side, just generally in the vicinity of whatever that evidence is.
Okay. And that's alerting other officers that there's something on the ground and don't step on this, right?
Correct.
All right, you were asked some questions about guns. When an individual racks a gun, does a live round fall out of the gun?
If you rack a gun on an unloaded firearm, it should not.
Okay. And if it's loaded?
It will eject the live round that's in the barrel.
Okay. So when a gun is racked, a live round's ejected, and then that person can fire the bullet that's now in the chamber?
Correct. If it was unloaded, it would put a live round and you could fire. And if it was already loaded and you racked it, it would eject a live round, but it would still put another live round in it, so it'd still be able to fire.
Okay. So if a person racks a gun one time, there's a bullet in the chamber, that can be fired, and then another bullet is loaded directly into the chamber?
Yeah, when you rack a loaded gun, the original round that was in that chamber will come out, and they would put another bullet inside the chamber, and then you can still shoot it.
Okay. That person does not need to keep racking the gun in order to keep firing?
If it's a semi-automatic handgun, correct.
Okay. So a person can continue to fire as many bullets as are being put in the chamber?
Correct.
Correct? Okay. If a person racks the gun again while there's already a live round in the chamber, is the live round then ejected from the gun?
Correct.
And or more than one can be ejected?
Should just be one.
But then, but that person did not have to rack the gun to continue firing, right?
Correct.
Okay. And then if a gun is racked again after that, like now we're at a third time, does a live round again get ejected from the gun?
Correct. As long as there's ammunition in the magazine, and if you keep racking it, it will continue to eject the live round and put in another round.
And put in a new round?
Correct.
That can immediately be fired?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Nothing further.
Just very briefly, when you were coming in, we saw it on the BWC, it was a pretty intense moment, right?
Correct.
Someone was having to bang the door down, right?
Correct.
You didn't know if there was an active shooter still inside the apartment, right?
Correct.
And when you opened the door, when the door was opened and everybody started flooding in, you were using your gun to look around, to clear the apartment, right?
Correct.
You weren't paying attention to what you were stepping on or perhaps kicking on the floor, right?
Not everything in front of me.
Correct. And when you were asked about whether other officers kicked anything when they were coming in, you have no idea what other officers may have kicked on accident, but as they were coming in to clear what was a pretty intense scene, right?
Correct.
Nothing further.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, officer.
Thank you.
You will call Officer Eric Moreno.
seat on the witness stand. Please tell us your first and last name.
Eric Moreno.
And please spell both of those names.
Eric, E-R-I-C. Moreno, M-O-R-E-N-O.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
What is your current occupation?
I'm a police officer with San Diego Police Department.
How long have you been a police officer?
A little over 3 years.
And what is your current job assignment?
I work the downtown area, Central Division.
Can you describe the training that you received to become a police officer?
We've gone through a 6-month process of training regarding investigation, shooting, defensive tactics.
What is the training you received on shooting?
With shooting, it's shooting on the move, shooting when a threat is present, shooting at night, shooting over vehicles.
Did you receive training in the investigation of cases involving shootings?
We did.
What type?
Just types of ammunitions that are used in shootings, different types of calibers.
What about evidence found at the crime scene?
Yes, just marking evidence when casings are found or projectiles.
I'm sorry?
When casings or projectiles are found, impacts.
And approximately how many investigations have you responded to that involve shootings or gun evidence?
Quite a few.
You could ballpark how many?
If I had a ballpark, probably 50.
I'd like to talk to you about October 21st, 2021. What radio call did you respond to about 3:11 p.m.?
We got a radio call of 2 people found with gunshot wounds in an apartment.
What apartment?
It was apartment 3508.
Where did you go upon your arrival?
Upon my arrival, my partner and I made it into the lobby and up the elevator. Once inside, we already had first responding units already there, kind of getting more information about what was happening.
Who was your partner?
My partner at the time was Christopher Barnett.
When you arrived on scene, who was already there?
Already on scene, I believe it was Officer Diego Arianes, Nancy McMichael, Terrell Totten, Ryan Nislite, and Paul Yee.
And when you arrived in the lobby, were they in the lobby or already upstairs?
They were already upstairs on the 35th floor.
How were you able to get access to the elevator?
One of the security guards downstairs had one of the service elevators open for us.
How long did it take you to get up to the 35th floor?
Within minutes.
You said minutes, but it took a couple minutes?
Yeah, a couple minutes.
Were there stops made for people getting on and off the elevator?
No, I think security had stated they locked all the other elevators, and that was the only one operating at the time.
Okay. So no one got on and off, and it still took you a couple minutes to get upstairs?
Correct.
Were you wearing your full police uniform that day?
I was.
Were you wearing a body-worn camera?
I was.
Are you wearing that right now?
I am.
It's the black camera on
Yeah,
your chest?
this one right here, yes.
Is that the same camera you were wearing on October 21st of 2021?
Not the same one. I've had others due to malfunction or batteries dying, but yes, it's similar to the same one I was wearing that day.
Okay. And you activated your body-worn camera at some point, either before you entered or in the lobby?
As I went 97 on the call, it was activated.
What is went 97?
Oh, sorry, when I arrived on scene.
Okay, I am going to play a portion of your body-worn camera, and then I'll ask you questions after. The body-worn camera disc is People's Exhibit number 26, and the transcript is number 27.
Let's chill and awkward. just came out. Look next door. She's got a cross. Where you want the shield? Bring it in here. Everyone in. Everyone suck in. Go right. Throw the shield to the wall. Joe, hey, back up to there. Back up. Go back up to here. We need to hold the door.
Okay, was that a clip of your body-worn camera?
Yes, it was.
Was there a much longer period of time on your body-worn camera than
Yes.
what I just showed you?
Yes, it was.
Okay. And the clip that I just showed you, what was it? You going from where to where?
That was from exiting the elevator on the 35th floor to the targeted unit at 3508.
Okay, and so the beginning of the video showed your route. When you got off the elevator, did you make a right?
Correct.
Right, and then there was a hallway there?
Correct.
And then you made another right,
Correct.
and then you went down that hallway, and then did you make another right
Correct.
to get to the end of the hallway?
Yes.
All right, and so 3508 was at the end of the hallway.
Yes, and the hallway to the right.
And we saw on the body-worn camera that there was a stairwell to the, immediately before apartment 3508, there was a stairwell?
Yes.
What officer was in that stairwell?
I believe it was Officer Terrell Totten.
Okay. And was he interviewing the neighbors?
Yes.
And so before you had already arrived on scene, he was already conducting interviews?
Correct.
Right, and the shield that we saw on the body web camera, who was carrying that?
That was my partner, Officer Barnett.
Why was that used?
The radio call had something to do with gunshots being heard from one of the witnesses, and so in order to, for our safety, we had the shield present.
All right, and then you and the other officers went into, was it apartment 3507?
I don't recall what unit it was, but it was just adjacent.
So the neighbor's apartment?
Correct.
And in the apartment, did you all then form a plan to enter 3508?
We were formulating a plan, and we ended up making an inch, or what we call a stick, kind of an entry team, with our officers lined up, and then we decided to make an emergency breach to the unit 3508.
And so once the breach was done, did you then enter the apartment?
Yes.
And what did you see when you entered the apartment?
When we entered the apartment, there was two people down on the couch, a male and a female. We ended up clearing the rest of the unit to make sure everything else was safe for officers to enter, and then we conducted our investigation from there.
When you first entered the apartment, were the male and female on the couch deceased?
It appeared to be.
And did officers either attempt to take pulse or attend to the victims on the couch?
Yes.
Did either of the victim have a pulse?
Neither.
When you entered, what was your role? Where did you go?
My role, I was helping other officers. We ended up clearing the balcony. There was another room just before the balcony that was also, I helped assist clearing, and then in the bedroom also.
And a few minutes into all the officers going into the apartment, did the sergeant start to give everyone their assignments?
Yes, he did.
What was your assignment?
My assignment was just to find any evidence inside the room and scene security.
When you entered the apartment, you were aware that it was a shooting, correct?
Correct.
Were you under the assumption that you would see evidence on the ground or anywhere in the apartment?
Yes.
Were you doing your best to not disturb any of that evidence?
Yes, I was.
As far as you're aware, you didn't move any items of evidence?
One was located, but I did not move. Oh, sorry, no, I did not.
Okay, meaning items on the floor?
No, items on the floor was not moved.
Okay. And then you said your assignment was starting to look for evidence. What did you do in that regard?
In the regard of collecting or locating, I found shell casings, projectiles, and a couple impacts on one of the walls.
Where did you find the shell casings?
On the couch between the couch and the main master bedroom, and then another one inside the master bedroom.
Okay, the shell casings that you saw, you said near the couch, are they behind the couch, in the area between the couch and the wall to the bedroom?
Yeah, there's, I'd say approximately 6 inches between the back of the couch and the wall to the master, where I located 2 shell casings and a projectile.
Okay. Are the 2 shell casings and the projectile that you found behind the couch, was that in an area where anyone would be walking?
Not really, no.
Okay. It's a small area?
Yeah.
Between the couch and the wall?
Mm-hmm.
How many inches would you say?
I'd say 6 to 7.
And then did you mark those casings?
I did.
How did you do that?
With one of our PD 145s, I tore a piece of paper and folded it in half, kind of like a little tent.
Is that a small piece of white paper?
Yes.
All right, and then you said you saw a shell casing in the bedroom. Where was that?
It was located in the main area of the bedroom area.
Did you mark that?
I did.
The same way with the little paper tin?
Yes.
Did you see any other casings?
That was all I saw. Yeah.
And did you see any live bullets, meaning unfired bullets?
I did not.
Were you personally looking for every piece of evidence in the apartment?
I could.
Okay. Is that the role of the homicide detectives? To process the crime scene for evidence?
Yes, we just kind of help find things before they get there.
Correct. And so you looked around and started to find things, you marked some items, but you didn't look at the entire apartment to see where every piece of evidence was?
No.
Is that fair to say?
Yes.
Okay. What did you find in the master bedroom closet?
As I was continuing my search for evidence, I noticed a Glock firearm box sitting on the top, I guess the top shelf of the closet.
Okay. And why was that significant to you?
Because Glocks are firearms, and there was a firearm used in there to fire these bullets. So.
Were you looking to see if there was a Glock or a firearm inside the apartment?
We were.
Okay. Did you find one?
No, we didn't.
When you were conducting your investigation for evidence, was there information being broadcast on the radios?
Yes, I think they had a license plate from a previous incident, and then an incident regarding a DV was put out over the air.
Okay. When you say they had information about a license plate and a DV incident, what do you mean by that?
Our dispatchers, they were able to run the number used for the initial call, and were able to find previous calls for service.
Okay. What information were you all as officers seeking and relaying to dispatch?
Just names, trying to possibly ID the victims on the couch, who the person that called was.
Okay, so the person that called, what do you mean by that?
Just the reporting party, just trying to identify, was this person possibly related?
Okay, and so did you receive the name of the reporting party?
We did.
And dispatch was running the name of the reporting party or any vehicles associated with the reporting party?
Correct.
Okay, and then also any vehicles associated with the apartment?
Correct.
And you said that information was located in a prior domestic violence call?
Correct.
And so, were you receiving information on the radio about officers locating that vehicle associated with the apartment?
Yes.
Do you recall what vehicle it was?
I believe it was a Jeep.
Now, at the time that you're inside the apartment, you don't know yet who the shooter is?
No.
Okay. And so you and the other officers are trying to determine that?
Correct.
What information were you receiving that helped you and the other officers start to identify the suspect?
Well, I had noticed a YouTube plaque on the wall with a name on it. We had looked up the name on YouTube just to identify if this person may have been the male, but it didn't match the male on the couch.
Who was the male on the YouTube plaque?
I don't recall the name or the username on the plaque.
Okay. But you looked up the name on the plaque and you found
We found a bunch of videos, kind of imitation videos of characters from movies.
And then, did you or other officers use, you were looking that up on your cell phone?
Correct.
Did you and the other officers take the cell phone or look at the person who was doing those videos, the same as the plaque on the wall, and match it to the male on the couch?
We did.
Okay, and then what determination did you
We
make?
determined the person in the videos was not the person on the couch.
And when you were present inside the apartment, did the paramedics arrive?
They did.
Were there multiple paramedics?
Yes.
Once you, or how long did you stay inside the apartment doing security and locating evidence?
I believe it was about 40 minutes.
At some point in time, did you receive information that the suspect was located?
Yes.
Okay, and that the Jeep was located?
Correct, yes.
Right. Thank you, nothing further.
Good morning, officer.
Good morning.
When you were staging in the apartment across the way, at some point you guys were trying to formulate a plan, but then just decided to do an emergency breach. Is that correct?
Correct.
Because it was an emergency, right?
Mhm.
You didn't know what you were going to find on the other side of the door, whether it might be a shooter inside there or deceased people inside, right?
Correct.
And you would agree, based on the body-worn camera footage that we watched of yours, it was an intense moment. Is that right?
It was, yes.
And you were asked about whether you moved any items on the floor. When you were walking in, yourself and the other, 5 or 6 officers that were with you, when you first entered the apartment, you were not concerned with what was on the floor. Is that right?
Correct.
You were concerned with whether there was someone else alive that could be a shooter inside the apartment,
Correct.
clearing the apartment,
Correct.
and determining whether there was anyone who needed help inside of the apartment. Is that right?
Yes.
So when you told us that you didn't move any items on the floor, you mean after sort of everything had been cleared, you then began to look around on the floor. Is that right?
Correct, yes.
But prior to that, you were not paying attention to things on the floor. Is that
No.
correct? You said that at some point while you were inside of the apartment, information began to come in through the radio about maybe the apartment or people who lived there or phone numbers associated with the apartment. Is that right?
Correct.
And one of the things that you told us was that based on the reporting party, whoever called 911, that phone number was looked up and there were calls to service from that telephone number.
Correct.
And they were 911 calls placed from that telephone number previously. Is that right?
Not if it was that phone number, but the name and associated with that apartment, yes.
But did you tell us that they conducted somewhere you were getting information about phone calls associated with that telephone number?
I may have. That's not. It was more of names and unit, the apartment, the calls for service from that apartment.
Okay, so are you aware of whether anyone looked up calls to service with the telephone number that called 911 that day?
No, I'm not.
You told us that there was a plaque hanging up on the wall behind the couch. Is that correct?
Correct.
And it had a picture of a person on it, right?
No.
It didn't?
No, it didn't.
Okay. What was on it then?
It was a silver plaque with the YouTube logo and a username on top of it, or printed on it.
Do you remember another picture hanging on the wall of a person?
Not that I recall.
Okay, thank you. Nothing further.
No, Your Honor, thank you. People call Craig Torline.
solemnly state that the testimony you're about to give in this matter shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Please have a seat on the witness stand. Please tell us your first and last name.
First name is Craig, last name is Torline.
And please spell both of those names.
Craig, C-R-A-I-G. Torline is T-O-R-L-I-N-E.
Thank you.
All right, good morning.
Good morning.
What is your current occupation?
I am a firefighter paramedic with the City of San Diego.
How long have you been a firefighter or paramedic?
I have been a firefighter paramedic for just over 11 years.
What are your job duties as a firefighter and paramedic?
Firefighting, mostly just fire suppression. As a paramedic, I work jointly on doing anything EMS related, whether it be medical aids, traumas, basic life support, and all the way up to advanced life support.
Can you describe the education and training you received to become a firefighter paramedic?
Yes, I went to EMT school for 10 months at Hempstead College here in San Diego. I worked on an ambulance doing interfacility transports for approximately a year and a half before entering paramedic school. Paramedic school was approximately a 2.5 year program with an internship at the end and hospital clinicals. And for that, I went to NCTI paramedic school here in San Diego as well.
And what type of training did you receive during paramedic school about offering medical aid and determining whether an individual is deceased or not?
We studied protocols daily in our paramedic school, whether to withhold or give aid in regards to resuscitative efforts. It's an acronym called DRIDE, and it stands for decomposition, rigor mortis, incineration, evisceration of the heart or brain, or decapitation. If we walk on scene and there are any one of those present, that is enough right there for us to withhold resuscitation and not contact base hospital. No need to get base hospital physician on the radio. We're able to pronounce after seeing any one of those.
Why are there no resuscitation efforts used in those scenarios?
Because their patient is deemed beyond help, any medical help at that point.
Okay, I want to talk to you about October 21st, 2021, after 3 p.m. Where were you dispatched?
We were dispatched downtown. I was working at Fire Station 11 off 25th and Broadway. I believe we were dispatched somewhere off 14th Street to a high-rise building on what we call a standback. We were stood back approximately a couple blocks away from the location, out of sight until San Diego PD cleared us in. At that point, we were escorted upstairs to, I do not recall what floor, to a high-rise where PD escorted us into that building.
Okay. And so, do you recall when exactly you got the call to come to that high-rise?
I do not recall the times.
Okay. Sometime after 3 p.m.?
After 3 p.m. Exact time, I'm not sure.
Okay, and then you said you stood by. What did that mean?
So we stood by once we were dispatched. I believe San Diego PD had the call. We were dispatched in anticipation that they were going to need us. That we stand back. It's our policy to stand back until it's out of sight, at least 2 blocks away, until San Diego PD deems it safe enough for us to enter, and they have cleared the scene. So we were standing by while they were clearing the scene.
Okay, why would it not be safe for you to enter?
Because there were initial reports of gunshots being fired, so anything gunshot related, we always stand back.
How do you receive the call to be dispatched out?
We're at our fire station. We have tones, overhead tones that go off, and computer screens on the apparatus floor and inside the station. So the tones go off, and there's a speaker that dispatches the time, the location, and what units are going. And that's right across the screen in red writing as well.
Okay. Is that from a 911 dispatcher or from police?
That is from our fire fire dispatch.
All right, and so once you arrived at the apartment complex, was it Spire San Diego?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
Was it Spire San Diego, the apartment complex you arrived at?
That sounds familiar, yes.
Okay, and then how did you enter the building?
Once we got there, we were, like I said, we staged a couple blocks over, pulled up onto the scene. PD entered us into the building. I believe there was escorts at the elevators. They escorted us up the elevator. I'm not sure what floor we went up. They took us up to the elevator and they escorted us into the apartment room.
Did you have a crew with you?
I had a crew with me. I had I'm the firefighter paramedic. I had my EMT firefighter partner with me, our engineer, which is our driver, and our captain, and then we were accompanied with the ambulance unit as well, with an EMT and paramedic on the ambulance.
Okay. And so once you got off the elevator, then were you escorted to the apartment by officers?
That's correct.
And once you arrived inside apartment 3508, what did you see?
Upon walking in, there was several San Diego PD officers in there. They escorted us over to, which I believe was the living room, and I saw two patients, two potential victims. They were motionless, kind of slumped over on the couch. Upon approaching them, I noticed a male and a female, approximately mid-30s, motionless, not breathing. Upon checking for a pulse, neither of them had a pulse, neither of them were breathing, and it appeared that there was substance that was very consistent with brain matter exposed coming out of their head and possibly on the drywall behind them as well. So.
Okay. In front of you, do you have People's Exhibit number 25?
Yes.
Okay. What is shown here?
This appears to be the female patient that we saw slumped over on the male's lap on the couch, and it looks like, which was the living room that we responded to.
Is this an accurate depiction of how both the male and female appeared when you entered the apartment?
Yes, that's accurate.
So when you went into the apartment, did you approach both the male and female?
Yes, that's correct.
And were their pulses taken?
Their pulses, yes, both of their pulses were taken.
You said there was no pulse?
There was no pulse on either patient.
And you said neither patient was breathing?
Neither patient was breathing.
Were they pronounced deceased?
They were pronounced deceased just very shortly after that.
At what time?
I believe the time on the report was 15:31.
What time is that?
3:31.
3:31 p.m.?
That's correct.
Okay. And you said that part of your determination was that you saw brain matter?
That's correct. That's based off the brain matter. We did not use any resuscitative efforts.
Did you do anything else on scene?
I believe we were looking for ID for both the male and patient. I don't think we were able to come up with ID at that time, driver's license, anything like that, just to put into our reports. Once we were unsuccessful finding any identification, we were escorted out of the building by PD.
And you don't transport the bodies, your unit, correct?
That's correct. We did not. We left them on scene with PD.
Thank you. Nothing further.
No, thank you.
Thank you. Next witness.
Your Honor, people called Chandler Haddix.
Do you solemnly state that the testimony you're about to give in this matter shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Please have a seat on the witness stand. Please tell us your first and last name,
My name is Chandler Haddix.
and please spell just your last name,
Haddix.
Thank you. And please speak into the microphone.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Where were you living in October of 2021?
I was living on the 35th floor of Spire, San Diego,
In what apartment?
3503.
Who were you living with at the time?
Roommate, Nathan Kent.
Did you have any security camera outside of your apartment?
Yes.
What did you have?
It was a Google Nest or Ring camera.
Okay, I'm showing you People's Exhibit number 28. What is shown here?
My front door.
Is this apartment 3508? I'm sorry, 3503?
Oh, 3, correct.
Okay. And then where's the Nest camera?
It is to the right of the door handle on the wall.
So we're seeing a black oval to the right of the door handle.
That is correct.
Is that the Nest camera?
Yes.
Okay. And is this a fair and accurate depiction of how your apartment door appeared if you're standing in the hallway looking right at it?
Correct.
Okay. And then showing you People's Exhibit 29. What is shown here?
That would be the hallway facing towards the elevator bay. That's the hall facing from my apartment.
Okay. So your apartment is, if someone was standing in front of this photograph, that's where your apartment is? Your door?
Yes.
Correct? And so is this photograph, we're looking from your apartment down the hallway?
Correct.
All right, and then what is on the right where that gray door is?
That is the elevator bay for everyone on the floor.
Okay. And then what is on the left right across from the elevator bay?
That's a mirror.
If you were to walk straight down that hallway, we see that there's a brown door at the end.
Yes.
Do you know what apartment that is?
Maybe 3505.
Okay. So there is an apartment that's straight at the end of the hallway, correct?
Yes.
And then do you have to make a right in
Yes.
front of that door to access the next hallway?
Yes.
Does that hallway lead to apartment 3508?
Yes.
How does the Nest camera function that you had outside your door?
It automatically picks up sound or motion. It's constantly recording.
And do you have, is there an application that's on your cell phone or
Yes.
an iPad where you're able to view the video that the Nest captures?
Yes.
So in People's Exhibit number 29, when you're looking down this hallway, is that what the Nest camera captures?
Yes.
Okay. So the Nest camera captures motions or people, things like that, that are coming up and down that hallway?
Correct.
And does the Nest camera also capture audio?
Yes.
Did you know the individuals who lived inside apartment 3508?
No, I kept to myself. I had seen them many times, but I didn't really connect with my neighbors.
Okay. So do you know the names of the individuals who lived in 3508?
I know the name of the defendant now.
Do you see him in court, the person who lived in 3508?
Yes.
Right. Can you point him out and describe some articles of clothing that he's currently wearing?
He is wearing a blazer with a blue shirt.
Thank you. Had you seen the defendant, they're on the floor coming from that apartment sometime in 2021?
Yes.
Had you ever seen police go to their their apartment in the past? In
Yes.
2021?
Yes.
Do you know how many times?
Maybe twice
From what you saw?
from what I saw.
Have you ever heard any violence or arguments coming from apartment 3508?
Yes.
When you heard that, were you in your apartment?
Maybe in transit between the elevator to my apartment, yes.
Do you know how often you would hear what sounded like arguments or violence from that apartment?
Maybe once every few weeks.
Are you able to say what time frame you heard this?
I can't recall.
Okay. Sometime in 2021?
Yeah.
Was it in the period before October of 2021?
Yes.
Did you ever hear what anyone was saying inside the apartment?
No. Personally, I mind my own business.
Understood. I just want to know what kinds of things did you hear? Like, did you hear anything associated with violence or throwing things or anything like that?
Absolutely.
What did you hear?
Commotion, sounded like. Could have been something thrown at a wall, and loud yelling.
What was the yelling that you heard, male or female?
Combination of both.
Did you ever hear a child yelling?
No.
All right, on October 21st of 2021, did the police come to your door?
Yes.
Is that sometime after 3 p.m.?
Yes.
Were you home?
Yes.
And what were you doing at the time, if you recall, right before the police got there?
I was doing laundry. I was listening to relatively loud music. I recall I was listening to Harry Styles.
Okay, but you said it was loud?
Yeah,
All right, did you hear anything unusual?
I did.
What did you hear?
I heard loud banging, and what I thought I heard was a scream. And at first I didn't know what to think of it. I just was in a good vibe that morning, doing my own routines. It was my day off, and I thought to myself, oh, it's possibly that couple down the hallway again, and I just went about my business.
When the police officers arrived at your door, was it two of them?
Yes,
And did they ask you about your Nest camera?
they did.
Okay. Were you helpful in assisting police with providing the Nest camera footage?
Yes.
Okay. How were you able to provide that footage, either you or your roommate?
Well, it was owned by my roommate. I had access to it through my tablet, and he was at school. I was home. I allowed the officers to come in, and we accessed the footage through my tablet, and then I allowed them to further investigate.
Okay. So you had the footage, and they were asking you for the entire day's footage?
Yes.
Were you looking at any of the videos while trying to access them to show to the officer?
Yes.
What did you see on the videos?
I saw the defendant pacing the hallway multiple times, and then and that was earlier in the morning, between like 9 and 11 in the morning, and then later around 3 p.m. he returned. Between 2 and 3 p.m. he returned, and then there was some loud audio that I didn't really care to listen to, but I let the officers listen to it.
Okay. Why did you not care to listen to it?
But it just seemed pretty traumatic what had happened.
All right, so, again, we're in People's 29, this is the view that you were watching on the Nest camera, correct?
I'm sorry,
In People's Exhibit number 29, when we were talking about your apartment being, off camera, facing this hallway, is that what you were watching on the Nest camera?
yes.
So when you said that you watched a video from the morning, you said between 9 and 11 a.m., you said the defendant was pacing the hallway. Do you recall where he was?
In between the elevator bay and the entrance to their hallway.
Did you hear him having any conversations with anyone?
Yes.
At the time, did you know who it was?
No.
All right, and then you said that the defendant returned between 2 and 3 p.m.?
Mhm.
Okay. And then what was it that you saw that you watched in the video?
It seemed that he had gone back and forth to the apartment multiple times, or maybe he was going in between floors, possibly. It seemed like he was casing the apartment.
What were the loud noises you heard on the video?
And they were gunshots.
And after you heard those gunshots on the video, did you see the defendant again?
Yes.
So when you're watching the video, do you see the defendant running towards his apartment?
He went back and forth multiple times.
Okay. And then did you hear him have a conversation
Yes.
in the hallway? And again, you didn't know who it was?
No.
And then after, at some point, you don't see or hear the defendant anymore on the Nest video.
Correct.
And now we're getting into real time,
Correct.
right? So, the Nest videos, when you saw the video, was there a timestamp on it?
Yes.
And was it accurate to real time?
Yes.
After you watched the videos with the officer, did you provide them to the officer?
Yes.
Is that Officer Ryan Nisley?
Yes.
You recall? Okay, how did you provide the videos to Officer Nisley?
Well, we sent a video file, PDF file, I think.
And were there several different videos that you sent?
We did a screen recording of the entire day.
Alright, so you sent all Nest video footage that you had on your tablet or the phone, and you sent the whole day's video files to Officer Nisley.
Correct.
Was that right there when he was there?
Yes.
Did you have to send any other videos to him later on in the day?
Not that I recall.
Okay, so everything was sent when he was present